The Cold War had a dirty secret, and it had a code name, MKUltra. The CIA ran it for years. They said it was research, but the public never saw the real file, because most of it got burned later. This started with fear, real fear. America was obsessed with control. Control over spies, control over enemies, control over minds. If a person can be broken, maybe they can be used. That was the thinking. So the CIA began testing drugs, pressure, isolation, and fear. They wanted to know if they could crack a person open. They wanted answers that never should have been asked. Some tests used LSD. Some used sleep deprivation. Some used loud noise. Some used interrogation that lasted for days. Some people knew they were part of a test. Most did not. That is the part that gets me. People were not always volunteers. Some were patients. Some were prisoners. Some were just in the wrong place. They were studied, monitored, and pushed past their limits. In one case, doctors gave people LSD without telling them. In another, subjects were put through repeated psychological stress until they lost track of time, memory, and trust. The goal was not healing. The goal was control. And yes, this was paid for with government money. Quiet money. Hidden money. Money that left no public trail for years. The CIA worked through front groups, universities, hospitals, research centers. Names changed. Paperwork vanished. The system was built to hide itself. Then came the destruction. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered many MKUltra records destroyed. Boxes of files were shredded or burned. The idea was simple. If the paper is gone, the story is gone. But not everything vanished. A few files survived by accident. A few memos were missed. Some records turned up later during investigations. And when reporters and lawmakers dug deeper, the picture got uglier. This was not a rumor. It was not a movie plot. It was real. The government admitted it. Senate hearings confirmed it. Victims came forward. Their stories were messy, painful, and hard to listen to. Some said they suffered memory loss. Some said their lives fell apart. Some said they never got an apology that meant anything. And even now, the full list of what happened is still not known. That unknown part is what keeps MKUltra alive in public memory. Because the destroyed files raise a bigger question. What else was hidden? What else got buried? What did they learn, and who used it later? People still argue about that today. Some think MKUltra was shut down and that was the end. Others think the methods just moved into other programs, other rooms, other names. What we do know is enough to make anyone pause. A government agency tested mind-altering drugs on people who did not always consent. It hid the work. It destroyed records. And it spent years pretending none of it happened. That is why MKUltra still matters. Not because it is a legend, because it happened. And if this one program could survive for so long in secret, then the real question is simple. What else did they think we would never find? At the height of the Cold War, the CIA launched one of the darkest secret programs in American history, a project so disturbing, the government later tried to destroy the evidence.
Cold War panic changed everything. Fast. America was terrified of brainwashing. The Soviet Union looked unstoppable. China did too. And nobody knew what they could do next. Then came the war prisoners. Some came home acting strange. Some said weird things. Some gave confessions that made no sense, that scared officials badly. They started asking one question. Can a mind be broken on purpose? If communists found that answer first, America thought it was finished. What if a person could be forced to say anything? What if secrets could be pulled out without mercy? What if someone could rewrite thoughts, like typing on a page? That fear spread inside the CIA. And once that started, it did not stop. They were not just worried, they were obsessed. They wanted proof. They wanted tools. They wanted control. So in 1953, CIA Director Allen Dulles signed off on something called MKUltra. Most people had never heard of it. That was the point. This was not a public plan. It was buried, hidden from normal oversight, kept away from the people who were supposed to ask questions. The goal sounds insane now, but they saw it as urgent. They wanted to find a way to control human behavior, not influence it, not guide it, control it. They believed the Cold War could be won in the mind, not just with bombs, not just with spies, with fear, with drugs, with pressure, with anything that might work. And that was the real danger. Once leaders believe an enemy can control thoughts, they stop thinking like normal people. They start justifying anything. Officials imagined enemies who could turn loyal citizens into traitors. They imagined prisoners who would confess anything. They imagined agents who could be programmed like machines. The CIA wanted answers fast, so they kept pushing. Further, deeper, harder. And the darker the fear got, the more extreme the search became. Because once you believe the human mind is a battlefield, you start treating people like test equipment. That is what MKUltra became. A secret hunt for control, built out of fear, driven by paranoia, and hidden inside a government that claimed to protect freedom. And this was only the beginning. The real question was never whether the CIA wanted to help. The real question was this: what were they willing to do to get control of a mind? That fear spread inside the CIA. And once that started, it did not stop. They were not just worried, they were obsessed. They wanted proof. They wanted tools. They wanted control. Most people had never heard of it. That was the point. This was not a public plan. It was buried, hidden from normal oversight, kept away from the people.
LSD became the center of MKUltra fast, not because it was safe, because nobody really knew what it could do. The CIA saw a drug with no clear limits, and they wanted to find them. Some of their scientists thought it could break a mind open, not heal it, control it. So they started testing it in secret. Military personnel, hospital patients, prisoners, regular people, people who never agreed to any of it. Some had no idea they were being drugged. They thought it was a normal drink, a regular pill, a simple test. It wasn't. Then the effects hit, fast. Faces changed, rooms moved, time stopped making sense. People panicked for no clear reason. Then they panicked for 100 reasons. Some started seeing things that weren't there. Others became convinced everyone around them was lying. Some couldn't speak straight. Some couldn't recognize where they were. And for a few, it went far worse. They broke down completely, cried for hours, screamed, shut down, lost all sense of control. The CIA watched. That part is important. They did not just give out the drug and leave. They studied the reactions. They took notes. They measured fear like it was data. In some tests, subjects were watched for hours through one-way mirrors. They paced, sweated, fought invisible threats only they could see, and behind the glass, people in clean lab coats kept recording everything. The goal was simple. How far can you push someone before they snap? How much fear can one brain take? How easy is it to make a person doubt their own mind? That was the real experiment. Not just LSD, human weakness, And the answers were ugly. LSD did not create obedience like a switch. It created confusion, fear, instability, sometimes total mental chaos. In other words, it didn't make people easier to control. It made them easier to break. That still did not stop the agency. If anything, it made them more interested. They kept going. More tests, more hidden dosing, more people used like lab material. A patient in a hospital bed, a soldier in a program he never heard of, a prisoner with no power to say no, a civilian just living their life. All of them could become part of the same secret test. This is what made MKUltra so disturbing. It wasn't just about a drug. It was about what happens when an agency decides consent is optional, when the human mind becomes something to poke, prod, and study, when people stop being people and start being results. And LSD was only one piece of it, but it was one of the clearest signs of how far they were willing to go. Because once they saw how powerful it was, they didn't ask whether they should keep going. They asked what else they could try. That is how the program kept growing, not with caution, with obsession. And for the people caught inside it, the damage was real. Sometimes it lasted minutes, sometimes hours, sometimes much longer. Some never really came back the same. The CIA wanted a way to control the human mind. Instead, they found a way to damage it, and they kept doing it anyway. That still did not stop the agency. If anything, it made them more interested. They kept going. More tests, more hidden dosing, more people used like lab material. And for the people caught inside it, the damage was real. Sometimes it lasted minutes, sometimes hours, sometimes much longer. Some never really came back the same. They built secret rooms for this. Real motel rooms, real people, real harm. The CIA called them safe houses. That name sounds harmless. It was not. One of the worst ops had a name too. Operation Midnight Climax. It sounds fake. It was very real. The setup was simple. Get men into a room, get them alone, get them high. Watch what happens. They hired women to bring men in. The men thought they were meeting for sex. They were not told anything. Their drinks were spiked with LSD. Then the agents watched. Not from the hall, not from a van outside, from behind mirrors in the room. They recorded everything. The panic, the confusion, the mood swings, the loss of control. People were treated like test subjects, like bugs in a jar. Some victims never knew. They just left the motel and went home. They thought they had a weird night. That was it. Others did know something was wrong. They felt it for years. Bad trips did not always end when the drug wore off. Some people carried fear, paranoia, and confusion long after. This was not some rogue accident. It kept going. It kept spreading. The agency wanted answers. They wanted control. They wanted a way to break a person down and see what was left, so they pushed harder. More drugs, more secret rooms, more watching, more records. And the more they found, the uglier it got. People inside the agency started asking questions. Not everyone was comfortable with it. Some officials saw the line being crossed. They knew this was not normal research. They knew this was not clean science. But the program kept moving because secrecy was the shield. National security was the excuse. And when those two things were enough, almost anything could happen in the dark. That was the real horror. Not just the drugs, not just the mirrors. It was how easy it became. A motel room, a hidden camera, a man who never agreed to any of it, and a government team writing notes like this was fine. Like this was data. Like people were just another thing to study. That is how MKUltra grew. Quietly. Step by step. Room by room. And the deeper it went, the less anyone wanted to say out loud what was happening. Ara, ma, as, one, my, bell. bomb.
One death changed everything. Frank Olson was a CIA scientist, and in 1953, he was given LSD without knowing it. Not by accident, by design. He had no idea what was happening to his mind. But people around him noticed fast. He got scared. He got confused. He stopped acting like himself. Then things got worse. A few days later, Olson was dead. He fell from a hotel window in New York City. The CIA claimed it was suicide. Simple case, closed case. But nothing about this felt simple. People started asking hard questions. Why was he given LSD in the first place? Why was he in that meeting? Why did his behavior change so fast? And why did the CIA move so quickly to lock down the story? For years, that was all the public had. A dead scientist, a hotel window, and a lot of silence. But silence never lasts forever. Decades later, Olson's family started digging. They wanted answers, not rumors, not excuses, real answers. What they found only made things darker. There were signs that suggested Olson may not have jumped at all. Some evidence pointed to a possible cover-up. Some investigators believed he had learned too much. Maybe he wanted out. Maybe he wanted to speak. And if that's true, then Frank Olson wasn't just a victim. He may have been a warning. Think about that for a second. A scientist works for the government. He gets drugged without consent. His mind starts slipping. Then he ends up dead. And the people with the most power are the ones telling everyone to move on. That's why this case never died. It kept coming back. Every new detail made it worse. Every new document made it messier. Every witness made the story feel more unstable. Some people believed Olson was unstable after the LSD. That was the easy answer. But others said the timing was too perfect. The CIA had access. The CIA had motive. And the CIA had the power to control the story from the start. That's the part that scared people most. Not just the death, the control around the death, the cleanup, the denials, the way the truth seemed to shift depending on who was talking. Years passed, and the mystery still stayed open. Some believed Olson's death was a tragic result of a drug experiment gone wrong. Others believed it was something much darker, a silencing, a message, a line crossed that could never be uncrossed. His family never stopped asking. They pushed for records. They pushed for honesty. And what they uncovered suggested that the government may have known far more than it admitted. Enough to raise doubt. Enough to fuel anger. Enough to keep the case alive for decades. Here's the real problem. If Olson was murdered, then MKUltra wasn't just reckless. It was lethal. And if he was pushed, then the program didn't just test minds. It may have destroyed one. That changes the whole story, because MKUltra was never only about drug tests, it was about power, control, fear. And Frank Olson became one of the clearest examples of what that power could do when nobody was watching. To this day, nobody can say with complete certainty what happened in that hotel room. Nobody can fully explain the last hours of Frank Olson's life. And that missing truth is exactly why this case still hits so hard. One man died, but the questions never did. And that's what made MKUltra terrifying. Not just what they admitted, what they kept hidden. One death changed everything. Frank Olson was a CIA scientist. And in 1953, he was given LSD without knowing it. Not by accident, by design. He had no idea what was happening to his mind. But people around him noticed fast. He got scared.
By the 1970s, MKUltra is finally getting exposed, and once people start digging, the story gets uglier fast. Government investigators find secret drug tests, illegal experiments, people used without real consent. The public hears this, and it hits hard. Because this is not rumor anymore. This is paperwork. This is names, dates, and files. Then comes the catch. Most of the records are already gone. CIA orders destroy huge stacks of documents. Thousands of pages vanish. Just like that. Some say it is cleanup. Some say it is damage control. Some say it is both. But when that much proof disappears, you have to wonder what was on those pages. The files that survive do so by accident. A few memos, a few references, just enough to show MKUltra was real. Just enough to confirm the basic outline, not enough to tell you everything. And that gap is where the fear starts. Because if the government could hide this much once, what else got erased? The official story says the program ended long ago. Fine, but that does not calm people down. It makes them ask better questions. Who approved it? Who took part? How many people never even knew they were tested? And how far did the project really go before the paper trail was burned? That is why MKUltra still sticks in people's minds. Not just because it happened, because the full version may never be known. A program like this does not leave one clean ending. It leaves missing pages. It leaves dead ends. It leaves people arguing decades later over what was done, what was ordered, and what was covered up. And once you accept that a government secretly experimented on its own citizens, the next question gets a lot darker. If they could do that there, in secret, with official support, what else did they think the public could never handle? What else was buried on purpose? And what did those destroyed files protect? So here is the part that still gets people. We do know the program existed. We do know people were harmed. We do know records were destroyed. But we do not know the full scale. We do not know every method. We do not know every target. We do not know who else knew and stayed quiet. That uncertainty is the real nightmare. Maybe the project ended when the scandal broke. Maybe pieces of it kept going under new names. Maybe some of the worst parts never made it into the surviving record at all. You can call that speculation if you want, but the missing files make it hard to trust the clean version. And that is the problem with MKUltra. The public got just enough truth to know they had been lied to, but not enough truth to feel safe. So people keep digging, they keep asking, they keep comparing notes and looking for the pieces that do not fit. Because once a system proves it can test people in secret, hide the evidence and walk away, you stop asking if it happened. You start asking how much of it is still hidden. So what do you think really happened to the missing MKUltra files? And what do you think was still left out? Because once a government secretly experimented on its own citizens, the next question gets a lot darker. What else was buried on purpose? And what did those destroyed files protect? So here is the part that still gets people. We do know the program existed. We do know people were harmed.